appreciate your allowing me to come here almost last moment to meet with everyone. And again, my name is Sharon Dinges, and I am running for Arizona State Senate in our new legislative District 7. So you may not have heard my name unless you're a real nerd. I've been in Arizona. I actually drove over tonight from Flagstaff. I'm just south of Flagstaff in Mountain Air. Just a nice rural community, a lot of hunting cabins, things like that. My campaign manager moved around here, Terry. I'm not sure where you are, but Terry Gillen came over here with me. And I'm a last-minute candidate because it was time to step in. And Lisa, you and your husband Dave, wherever you are now, I think you want to be like, okay. He was the catalyst. So back in November, Dave came out to be a speaker at the Coconino County Republican Committee on November 13th. And he said, you know what, we're still in the midst of redistricting, but we don't have anyone running in the new LD7 for state senate. And I've been thinking about running for office for 10 years and moving to Arizona 5 years ago and being a huge Trump supporter. I think every single rally he had here in 2020, we were there driving from Flagstaff down to wherever it was, up at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, standing in line as long as it took to be supporters. And then when we saw the election coming down, the evening of the election, and we all know what happened that night, right? We were not getting our votes counted. Things just stopped. They stalled, and anyone with just a lick of common sense would have realized there's something going on. So actually 5 days later, on November 8th, we drove through a blizzard from Flagstaff down to Phoenix to the Maricopa County Center where they were counting the ballots. They were counting the ballots, right? We had no idea if anyone else was showing up, but there were 4 of us who were there that morning, peacefully having a presence, not really knowing what our next step was, right? So just as a common person. And the further that we got into it, the more we realized there was a bit of a wave going. Other people were recognizing there was a problem going on. And several weeks later, when we had become large enough that we moved to the park just across from the Capitol, at the end of that very peaceful presence, discussing what we might be able to do, we were actually the instigators of the first peaceful march around the Capitol.
That was us.
Yep. We had a video requesting politely a recount, right? We need to audit the forensic audit of what happened.
Well, there's more than that.
So that's where we started, right? And so there's much more I could share along that line. But what happened is on the 13th of November, when Dave was here and he said, we need someone. I looked across the table at Terry and I'm like, yeah, it's time. I need to step in. No longer am I walking around getting signatures for other candidates. I have never been a precinct committeeman in my life, but in March of last year, April of last year, submitted my paperwork and was appointed one again in Coconino County, Precinct 62. And I've been learning my way, weaving and all that, but what's happened is I saw the gap, and what I did is I submitted my paperwork. Put together an exploratory committee, began to understand what this might mean, waiting for the redistricting to be complete to see if we truly were short a state senator, right? Yes. And so we all know how long it took to get the redistricting in that northernmost boundary, right? By about 1,000 feet. So here we are. And I've had people say, are you really gonna run? And I said, yeah, I've got a titanium spine. And I, over and over again, have stepped in when no one else has wanted to step in. And we had 5 incumbents, I believe, 3 in the House and 2 in the Senate, that are in the newly redistricted LD7. All right, so walking in and saying, I have something that I can bring here. So what do I have to bring, right? I am not a politician. I've not been involved in politics, aside from starting on November 8th. right? I needed to step up just as a common voter. I'm an engineer, 30 years engineer, and so I bring to that experience, the systems approach, the logical thinking, the root cause analysis, the very methodical, where it's black and white, because in engineering, just like when you're talking about the law, right? If it's not with the law, it doesn't exist until you can, if you do the right thing, change the law appropriately. In engineering, it either works or it doesn't work, right? And if it doesn't work, you better figure out why. And if you just throw things at the symptoms, you're not getting to the reason why it's broken. So that's one of the aspects that I believe I bring very uniquely to this position, is that ability and the skills and experience that I gained. So Terry dropped off at everyone's table some blank index cards. If you are so inclined, because this is a short period of time and I don't want to overspeak, so wave your fingers at me if I'm going very long. As an engineer, applications engineer, heating, air conditioning, ventilating, software, so again, going back to the Dominion systems, something smelled fishy. Those cards, if you are so inclined, the very first thing that I'm doing is what I call voice of the constituent. So when I've designed products and services and led teams that do that, the very first thing I need to understand is I am not the customer. I am only one of 240-some thousand constituents in LD7. I want to hear what matters. I'm hearing about Common Core. How come all of a sudden our math doesn't work?
Exactly.
I have taught at NAU. I've taught at another college in Indiana when I lived in Indiana, as well as another technical school. Young engineers that have joined my team when I was an engineering manager. Common sense, they were bright young men and women, but the school system had failed them. So looking at our school systems, as well as the crippling debt that college graduates have. What's wrong with trade schools?
Tell them what to do with the cards.
I'm sorry?
Tell them what to do with the cards.
Thank you. So, sorry, we're excited here. Voice of the constituent, I would love to hear what you have to say. So jot it down if you're so inclined, and while I won't have time tonight to address everything, what I'll be doing is holding some virtual town meetings. Again, it's a couple-hour drive, happy to come here anytime. I do work full-time, and this, again, I'm not claiming to be a career politician. I want to make a difference, right? And then let's keep moving on and hand the torch to the appropriate people to do this. So, going back to the Common Core, going back to some of the other issues. I know the border has been an issue, and that is really, really unsettling. I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. I was 70 years old. 70. I was 7 years old. Clearly feel free to laugh with me. I was 7 years old when Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. Okay, so I was able to grow up at a time when it was safe to be a kid. I could be riding my bike around, I could be playing in the woods, it was really safe. Kids don't have that opportunity today. The other thing, so securing our borders, doing it in the right way. Understanding that we have a lot of corruption embedded, entangled into everything. So the whole, what can you do right away? We need to pull things apart in a safe way, right? And sex trafficking, right? Second fastest growing illegal crime in the world. And we all know that Phoenix, capital, Desert Ridge Mall.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of this going on underneath everyone's eyes, right under your nose, on your child's phone, on their laptop, everywhere. And so that is an area where we have to make a difference, and we need to make it safe for our children again. So what are some of the things we're talking about here? Keeping it safe, law enforcement. Just last week, we were at the Williams Republican Club, and sat down next to several deputies who are part of the Coconino County Sheriff's Department. And they were sharing with me how understaffed they are, how underpaid they are, how the fact that Hobby Lobby pays as much or a little bit more as a deputy who puts his or her life on the line every single day that they go there. They don't know whether they're going to come home to their family or not. And you can't just say, hey public, let's go talk to our county board of supervisors. we are X number of percent low, we need to fix that. You can't say that out loud. You need to do it the right way, because you are putting people's lives at risk if you say they're so severely understaffed and they're doing this much overtime. What do you think might happen if we have the cartel here, or people who are nefarious in some other way? That's a vulnerability. We need to find the right way to disentangle and take care of that situation. And again, keeping us a little brief, one of the areas where I do bring quite a bit of expertise, again, I'm totally new to all of this, but I have over the years worked on standard settings committees, going in, taking a look at how to save energy, excuse me, in your building, and have your building interact with your power grid, all right? So we're talking about electric vehicles. Where does that electricity come from? Coal, right? But electric vehicles, that's clean energy, right? There's zero emissions. Exactly, wrong. Right? So what I did for many, many years is work on energy efficiency standards in buildings. So there's smart ways you can do this. You don't burden the building saying, you must be completely electrified by this particular date. All right? There's smart ways that you do this. My MBA is in renewable energy, because I do see a good future for us down the road with the appropriate use of renewable energy, right? Cradle to grave. If you can't recycle that thing at the end of life, what the heck? You're just coming through, on the way down here on 77, there was a wind turbine blade out there. You can't recycle that today, right? So doing things the right way. Looking at cleaner energy, but there are ways to make the energy cleaner. Dropping your load by having more energy efficient equipment helps. So that's a big part of it, is the fallacy of electric vehicles. How many gallons of water does it take to extract and process the lithium in 1 Tesla battery? Big ton battery? 6,000 gallons?
Oh my God.
Which is what 2 adults would consume water-wise in a month. And we're in the desert. So water security, water rights. Terry has 2 miniature donkeys, I have a rescue horse. And they share a pasture together. We needed to move them last summer because of a forest fire just across the highway in Kachina Village. That is an issue if we don't have forest management in the right way. So these are just a few of the things that, again, just getting my name out there, talking with folks, understanding what people are interested in, what your concerns are, because I'm stepping in to represent you. I am not stepping in to represent me. I'm here, the word servant. I was a servant leader before I even understood what the heck that even meant. I'm here to serve and make a difference. And it was with reluctance that I'm like, okay, I'm in. I'm stepping in. I prayed about it, sat with it, and now it's done.
Amen.
Yes, please.
Hi.
Hi.
So, sorry, I did not mean to interrupt your talk, and I'm.
No.
Okay. All right, so you talk about, everybody has all these questions about order and all these big things, but there's something
Yes.
that hits home. We're here in Navajo County. We have 718 seriously mentally ill individuals on the books right now with our regional behavioral health authority. We have on any given time 4 seriously mentally ill in our jails any week. We have as many as 8, as low as 2, because our people here don't get treatment, because we only have 2 behavioral health providers, Change Point and CBI, or Community Bridges. So mental health, for every mentally ill defendant that we have a family who wants to see them get treatment.
Yes.
We don't get that. Our mentally ill go into jail and into prison. We have had, over the last 2 years, at least 4 of them severely beaten and almost, well, 2 died, in prison because they don't get treatment. And so as a senator, is it possible that you will fight to help us to expand our behavioral health facilities, our, treatment centers here in Navajo County, because we don't have that. We have only one that deals with seriously mentally ill. And a lot of times we have to ship these people off the mountain if we can get them out of the jail. And Navajo County is very progressive in getting these people, trying to get them into treatment. We just don't have the treatment providers here.
First, my heart goes out to the families dealing with this, to the individuals and the families. Our system, our healthcare system, and especially our mental health care system has failed people. Whether people are mentally ill, just genetically, they are predisposed to that, whether they have post-traumatic stress disorder, right? When we look at veterans, when we look at anyone who has something traumatic in their life that actually alters the brain. We need to find a way to make it possible to treat people who have mental health conditions, obviously physical, but you're talking about mental health. I would welcome the opportunity to sit down and talk with you and with others to understand more about the situation, and then to be able to take a look at what we can do to do this.
Actually, can I,
Please, go right ahead.
can you get with me after this?
Absolutely.
Because actually, we do have somebody on our team who happens to work for the overall company that has one location here. And she's just been promoted and she is working with Sharon
That's a good point.
to find how can we help these people. And so she didn't even know that we had discussed that yet.
Well,
I had not, so
Right,
this is,
so if
yes.
I could get your information at all, we can keep you posted
That'd be
on what's
great.
happening.
Well, I'm the criminal justice coordinator for Navajo County.
Perfect.
So
Beautiful.
I can
Yes.
if you want to talk to, plus I'm Shola City Council.
And what
Yes,
are you
please.
running for?
Shola Justice of the Peace.
So if you guys live in Sholo and like to help support her, please like her.
Linden, Clay Springs,
Yep.
White Mountain Lake, and Pinedale.
Yeah.
So.
Hey,
Sholo, you can tell all your friends to start discussing, you started what you're saying about the election.
Yes, sir.
And that's my biggest concern right now, because everything you said after that doesn't make a difference. if
Right.
We don't get a handle on that.
Correct.
You can see what's happening with the administration, the border problems, every problem we have is because of what happened, I believe.
Yes.
And I don't see any way around it being any other way, because, so, what are your thoughts? And I know you're not a politician, so you don't know all the laws, and Andy knows the laws, and,
Teamwork.
yes.
So, excellent choice, thank you for the question, and thank you for asking that. There are there's some good legislation that's been discussed, there are some bills that have passed, that have moved forward within the system regarding election integrity. One of the things that we're actually doing is, and Terry has some ballots for this, the nomination papers, and that's to get the voter ID bill on the ballot for this fall for Arizonans to vote on. So bringing in the election integrity, and that's why this particular election is so critical. It was critical in 2016, we already knew there was fraud, right? And we could probably go back many elections to find different anomalies along the way. And again, going back, I've dealt with software for multiple decades.
Yeah, the machine's dominion.
Exactly. And when you leave it vulnerable, and when you're asking for devices where you can take a look at the data packets that get transferred throughout everything, when you leave it vulnerable to the internet, when you have the same darn password for many people for multiple years, you're
I think
inviting
it's
fraud.
intentional, probably.
That is my belief on that.
But didn't Andy Gould? Yes, sir, Your Honor? Didn't,
Not anymore, I'm retired. My wife never called me your honor, so.
didn't someone sue Maricopa County to get access to the Dominion machines and they were
Yes.
denied?
Actually, that's pending right now, so there's a lot of documents that have been requested. There's a case that just got decided in the Court of Appeals, but it's gonna go up to the state Supreme Court, so no final decision yet, but yes, you're right.
So that's still going.
And there's more than that. When you get down to the paper, and again, this is second or third hand, right? Because I've not been directly involved, so I want to make that caveat. However, when you hear claims about paper, there's a certain type of paper that printed ballots are supposed to be on. Exactly, and they're watermarks. When you look at, when we went down to the Maricopa County Election Center that Sunday, there were folks there with affidavit forms, talking with people saying, "Do you notice anything unusual?" The young woman that Terry was talking about, the day of the election, she put her ballot in the box, her ballot was not, they said, no, we didn't have it before midnight. We're not going to count it. Many other people, do you know you're supposed to have a ballot in a sealed envelope that you sign?
And sign, yes.
How many, did everyone get a ballot? We learned there are many, many people who did not, I'm sorry, not a ballot, but an envelope. And people didn't know you're supposed to have an envelope. Simple, right? Or at least anomalies, all right?
They did the canvassing. Votes that.
Yeah, because they're case after case after case, we can sit down and look at all these different things, a little sharpie, right? There's so many things that were unusual, too many of them for it to just be a coincidence.
You have some questions over here too.
One of the dirty little secrets that nobody has mentioned here tonight is that we are fighting an ingrained, embedded bureaucracy. Our legislatures write these laws that leave so much room, and then the bureaucrats come in and write in the implication of the application of it, rather. And that's gonna be one of the things that you're gonna be fighting as attorneys here in the Senate. So that's one thing we've got to address, and it's us, we the people, that need to get in here and do this stuff.
Yes. Thank you for that. And it does take teamwork, it does take the right people in office who have the right level of integrity, the right level of knowledge, the right level of energy to get this done, and fortitude. Yes, sir.
First of all, let you know my credentials. I did 28 years in Silicon Valley. One of the things that I think could be a big boon to stopping the fraud from these election machines is to test them in advance.
Yes, sir.
Now, 2 years before this last
Sorry, nerd
election,
talk.
technicians and I'm not sure whose machines they tested, but technicians at Symantec Corporation found a serious flaw. What they did is they forced the machine to do an error.
Yes.
When the machine does an error, it writes a log. And you know what was in that log? A TCP/IP connection.
Curious, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
That should be wholly illegal.
Correct.
You just wanna bring it
Yes,
up.
yes, absolutely. So a lot of the testing is what we call happy path testing, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, it did this, and it did this, and it did this, versus we are intentionally gonna break this son of a gun.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
But
exactly.
they're not allowing access to the machines and they haven't.
Well, then you don't allow
Before
machines to
or
run.
after.
That's
That's the
it.
big problem.
Yeah, no access, no run.
So I've always read that these electronic voting machines are easily hackable and all this stuff. And I heard about it for years. I took journalism in Arizona State, I've been studying all this for a long time, but. So if they want no voter ID, doesn't that mean you can just waltz in there and vote as many times as you want?
Yeah.
What I find curious is, don't you need to have an ID to actually register to be a voter?
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm-
So what's wrong with asking it on the day that you vote? In fact, I've lived in Georgia and Minnesota and voted in some other states, and I was always perplexed when I couldn't give them my ID to prove who I was. Oh, no, you can give me utility bill, we're good.
How many of these voting machines are part of their own instead of, you know, most of them, Mitt Romney owns some, right? And-
Probably, good investment.
Well,
Yes,
shouldn't
sir.
it be run by the government or somebody besides the private parties to own the
Federal
machines?
government,
Yeah, not the federal government.
the state.
Well, it should, you
Well,
should
and
have
I-
election authority, don't you?
So there's a lot that needs to go under there, and there need to be a number of very smart folks who can look at all that could go wrong. But I go back, the first thing I go to is gasoline pumps. When they come in, the Bureau of Weights and Measures has a little stamp on there, we certified such and such. Much more complex when you're looking at electronic voting machines, but something that will need to be looked at.
All right.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Last thing, I'm in the signature phase, so I would love your signatures as well as, and we have extra ballots.
I like your
Your
pants.
cards, sorry?
I like your pants.
Thank you.
They're cool.
And congratulations on becoming the new
That's like in the 70s.